Okay, guys, I'm trying to go live. Good evening, beautiful people. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to talk to you tonight. Maybe because of the rain, I'm not getting a signal. Hello, are you there? Hello. Tonight I'm going to talk about Melani Pawlowski, and I'm going to actually play a statement. It's a court document. It's about her, and I'm also going to talk about it doesn't look like it's live. See, that's I don't know. Okay, let me see if it's here. Oh, it looks at. Let me see if it's here. Oh yeah, you're on. Okay, tonight I'm going to talk about what we talked about last night, and I'm going to talk about that Chad traded in a beauty for a beast. He killed Tammy to get a beast. So with that said, I'm very discouraged about how Melani Pawlowski wrote that letter. Hi, Rock and Robin and Marcy and Epictetus. I don't know how. I'll never know how to say that. But anyways, Melani Pawlowski wrote a letter which I will not read. It is, in my opinion, disrespectful to Tylee. She calls her, I think the word was tyrannical or a tyrant, and that, she was someone who wouldn't let anything go and just, pushed her way through things. Now, does that remind you of Melanie? I mean, does that remind you of someone? Melanie doesn't let things go, and she hasn't even apologized. She should be apologizing to the public for all the lies and misinformation that she sent us through her media. Remember, she said that Lori had all kinds of plans? No, so I asked her tonight, what kind of plans did she have, Melanie? What were those safety plans for Tylee? Remember, she said there's no cult? Oh, there isn't, Melanie? Doesn't cultish behavior kill people? Don't highly religious people that take the religion to another place kill people? That's one thing that scares people about cults. So there's no cult, Melani Pawlowski? She said there was no zombies. Oh, but we have heard witnesses, including Melanie Gibbs, say that Lori called people zombies. We've seen it in documentation in Charles's court papers. We saw it in the official paper for Lori's committal. In that paper, it certainly said that there were zombies. Charles made sure he told them that he was Ned Schneider now and that she had plans to kill him. Is that the plans, Melani Pawlowski, that you're talking about, that Lori always has plans? I thought you were talking about safety plans for the children. I didn't get the drift that you were talking about. She had plans to murder people. So I'm confused. I'd like you to clear up the confusions. Did she have plans to kill the kids? Is that why she called JJ a zombie to Melanie Gibb? So anyways, there's been a lot of killings from this cult. There's been Charles. There's been a hit on Brandon, but he wasn't killed. There's been Tammy. There's been JJ. And there's been Tylee. And guess what? We don't know if there's more. We have no clue if there's more. In that letter that Melani Pawlowski just wrote to the public, saying, that that Tylee was a tyrant, and that Tylee would be looking down and saying something like, "Oh, stop the drama." No, Tylee wouldn't be looking down and saying, "Stop the drama." Tylee would be looking down and say, "Come get me, Melanie." There's a big difference. You're down here on earth. Your cousin is no longer here because of your aunt. How come you can't say those words? What is wrong with your mouth that you can't say those words? That your aunt did away with your cousins. Instead of saying that they can't, they like it up there. You infer that JJ and Tylee are happy up there. No, Melanie, you got it wrong. So instead of you being the tyrant, I guess I'm being a little bit of a tyrant. Hi, Jimmy Baisley from Montana. Yes, she did. She called her a tyrant. And I remember the interviews, Melani Pawlowski. You said you didn't even get along with her. You said when she hit teenagehood, that was it between you and her. And that was one of the reasons that you never noticed that she wasn't home in Rexburg, because you really didn't have anything to do with her anyways. Is that what gives you the right to call her a tyrant? And is that the right to, you're saying that we're judging you? You said that in the letter, but does that give you the right to judge her and tell us how she feels? That she's happy up there saying, cut out the drama? This ain't drama. Drama is made up. This is real life, Melani Pawlowski. Your aunt killed your cousins. With Chad, probably with Alex, with maybe a hand with Summer, and maybe a hand with yourself. It's my opinion. So cut the baloney. I'll never read your letter. I did read it. And I said, I can't read this online. People don't need to hear your words. Yeah. So Melani Pawlowski, now what I got is something from your father. And I'm hoping everyone can hear this. I'm going to share with you. This is a document. If you have heard it and you don't want to listen to it again, you can just like my video, subscribe, and say goodbye. But it's a document through the courts when her father, Steve, I keep forgetting his last name. But anyways, his first name is Steve. And it was when he was trying to get Melanie safe when she was 6 years old because of her mother's care. So somewhere I got the video right here, I think. Let me see. Hold on one second. Live. And here it is. Okay, guys, I hope you're going to be able to hear this. It's Stephen's document to the court. And I'm going to be playing it as soon as I can push on the button and have it on loud. Again, it's talking about mental and
beautiful people.
It's talking.
Today we're going to talk about Melani Pawlowski, and what her childhood was really like, pertaining to the court filings, papers, court documents that Steve Cope, her dad, had filed against Stacy Lynn Cope, which is Lori's sister. These papers were filed when Melanie was 6 years old. So here we go. I'm going to move it. A lot of it's hardly legible. So you're going to have some patience because it's not my slow speech anymore. Melanie insists she is a boy named AJ, Alex, or Bobby. And she cuts off her hair short and then began to cover it with a hat. When she claimed to be a boy, she claimed to be 3 years old and would talk in a different, more childlike pitch. Barry Cox is diagnosed schizophrenic. Janice Cox is obsessed with weight, physical appearance, and feminine bodies. Stacy blames food for her issues instead of her refusal to adhere to the insulin regime she needed to. Melanie, age 6, washed her hands up to 30 times a day and would not sleep alone.
Can you hear that, guys?
Anymore. She was not allowed to swim due to germs in the pool. Melanie began to fake sick so as not to go to school, which Stacy told her was full of germs. Stacy was increasingly suicidal and had even asked the nurse how much insulin she would need to administer to go into a coma and die. Stacy had shared her wish to die with her parents, Barry and Janice, and they all agreed it was Stacy's time to go.
Isn't that nice?
Interesting. That's my comment. Interesting. Stacy refused to have a feeding tube placed and had her IV feeding device removed without replacing it with another method to get nutrients. Melanie also began to swear as well as only want to dress like a boy. Stacy wanted to homeschool Melanie because other children have germs in food. Food was not allowed in the home unless, and I'm not sure if the bottom of that page, it might have been one line.
There's a lot of stuff I can't read.
I'm looking, guys. Be patient. Unless what? Food was not allowed in the home unless it was peeled, washed with alcohol. Oh my God. Cooked and sterilized as well as something. I can't make out the last line. Cooked and washed with alcohol. Oh, God, this family. Excuse me, that's my comment. That's not in there. I'll let you know if I comment. Okay, so the next page. And I don't know why it doesn't have, it's not side to side, so they cut off some words.
Yeah. The left margin and the right
margin. These are some of the documents from Stacy Cope's divorce from her husband, Steve. Steve filed for divorce and requested a restraining order. He claimed that Stacy is suicidal and thinks that food is evil, that Melanie was not allowed sugar or milk and has tooth enamel problems due to the lack of calcium. Supposedly, her food issues were so severe that she would return the groceries Steve bought and weighed only 76 pounds. He also claimed that Stacy was keeping Melanie from school and from socializing with other children. Melanie was affected, feeling responsible for caring for her mother to the point that she interrupted her playtime to check on her mother and stopped going to kindergarten. Steve claimed that Stacy took Melanie to California without his knowledge or consent, and when he was on a business trip in Atlanta. He also claimed that Stacy's health condition was her own doing because she did not administer her insulin properly and did not follow doctors' directions or suggestions, and that she developed gastroparesis as a consequence of her fears of food being evil. Additionally, she would not allow to have a feeding tube placed. Stacy required Melanie's toys to be washed in alcohol, would not allow Melanie to swim, or would not allow Melanie to use public restrooms due to germs. Okay, guys, that seems like it was a 2-page document, and I'm trying to see what was written on the bottom. It does not let me see the lot. There is a line or two, but I couldn't get it. Okay, so I'm going to give you page 1 of a court document. It says it was filed. It looks to be as of August 4th of 1995. It was filed in the courthouse. It's stamped. It's a declaration of petitioner. It's the state versus Cope to support a motion for temporary, I don't know what the temporary was. Must be temporary, something. So it's Steve V. Cope. He's the petitioner, and it's Stacy Lynn Cope, Melanie's mother, is the respondent. Steve Cope, and it might be W and not V. Sorry about that, because this line looks a little clearer. Steve W. Cope, declarer under the penalty of perjury and the laws of the state of Washington, based upon personal knowledge, as follows. My wife presents a sad, even pathetic case, which unfortunately threatens,
and
I'm trying to see the next word, threatens grave and irreparable harm to our child. Melanie, age 5. So, yeah, maybe it's age 6. Again, it's hardly legible. Probably age 6, because that's what it said on the front. Yes, age 6. It is with great sadness that I seek these restraining orders, but I believe that unless I am able to protect my 6-year-old Melanie and to provide a stable environment for her in which she is able to live and function in a normal fashion, that she will be irreparably harmed, far more than she is now. At this point, Melanie has missed over 6 months of school. Enamel on her teeth has not developed correctly, and she has developed more bizarre behaviors. However, the situation has come to the point where, in order to protect Melanie, I must act in a fashion which conflicts with what Stacy might desire or even need. And my wife appears to be either passively or, and I don't,
actively.
let me see where it says. Passive. Sorry about this. I'm checking.
I think it's actively. Passively or actively trying to commit suicide is what it says.
Shoot, it's going way too fast. I wish they have videotaped it and they're putting the pages.
Yes, another father that tried to save his children. Yes.
For 3 seconds. And then it's gone. So I'm trying to slow it down.
Epictetus. Can you phonetically write your name out like so I can figure out how to say it?
My wife appears to be either passively and or actively suicidal. And then the page flew.
Yeah, and then the page went.
Okay, let me see it again. I believe that she, and then the page just goes. I don't know why they do that. Needs to commit herself for long-term care, but she has refused to undertake the measures the doctors recommend. It is my understanding that working with our church, we will be able to provide blank with some location where she is able to exist while she makes healthier decisions. Through a combination of physical, psychological, and emotional factors, my wife Stacy has come to the point where her obsessive behaviors and habits are irreparably damaging Melanie. Stacy has a form of diabetes requiring regularly injecting insulin, which she administers only sporadically. From about November 1993 through February 1994, Stacy enrolled in a correspondence course in naturopathic medicine. She began eating more, exercising less, and reducing her insulin injections, counterproductive to management of diabetes. From that time, Stacy has acted on notions which have interfered with her own treatment and health. See below. But more relevant, have affected her ability to function as a parent for Melanie and have done irreparable damage to Melanie's tests, mental health, and attendance at school. Oh, Melanie's teeth, not Melanie's test. Yeah, so she's done irreparable damage to Melanie's teeth, mental health, and attendance at school. I'm not sure what the ultimate cause is of Stacy's condition or whether the condition is now irreversible or if there is a cure, but I do know that she is out of control and unwilling or unable to set limits on
Herself,
her behavior.
Yeah.
She must not involve Melanie in her obsessions. These obsessions include believe that food is evil and contains germs, and even that socialization with other children is contaminating. And I believe she is either something. And I believe she is either actively or passively suicidal again. Okay. And it's just whipping through these documents. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Thank you, JCat W. Like and subscribe, share, all that stuff. Thank you. I'm looking, what I'm doing now is looking through the papers because they're online and they're in a video form. They're not in a document form. So because they're so disjointed, I have to look for the next page.
Left her own. It must say Melanie has left her own devices. Melanie enjoys interacting with other children, attending school, etc. Stacy showed traces of Epstein-Barr in 1994. She concluded without any warrant that Melanie has Epstein-Barr. I, as well as the wife of the bishop of our church, had arranged for Melanie to be driven to and from school so that whatever Stacy's condition, Melanie can have the time away from the house. To no avail, as Stacy simply dismissed those efforts. If Melanie said, "I'm tired" or "I don't feel good," without further inquiry or effort, Stacy would not send her to kindergarten. In October of 1994, I made Melanie a wooden puzzle with 17 pieces, each of which was to be glued on for each day of kindergarten attendance. It took 40 days for the puzzle to be completed. I feel that contact with other children is essential. I had perfect attendance records for 3 years in my elementary school, and I as adamantly opposed to keeping Melanie away from school, as it deprives her of a normal socialization experience. Yet, unless I remain at home to counteract Stacy, by default, Melanie will not go to school. Stacy now detects her own problems in Melanie and has begun to impose her own peculiar,
I can't read
the
it.
next word is notion of medical care upon Melanie to Melanie's detriment. Stacy has imposed a whole other range of fears and alleged conditions on Melanie. Stacy has a sugar problem that concludes that Melanie cannot eat sugar and will hide sugar in order to eat any of a whole host of forbidden foods, which are generally accepted as good for children. Stacy believes milk. Stacy believes milk is bad and only something cows. Melanie is not allowed milk, and these foods are not allowed in the house and are returned if I buy them. Stacy fears the dentist, but has excessive tooth decay and oral hygiene problems to her high blood sugar. Melanie now fears the dentist. Melanie's last 2 lower teeth came in without enamel due to lack of calcium at the time that they were growing in. A recommended treatment is fluoride pills, which Stacy has refused to allow as something unnatural. Stacy has developed a paranoid fear of various foods for her own use or those of others. Among her beliefs is the following: cucumbers and tomatoes must not only be peeled, but also washed before peeling to avoid pesticides and germs. Milk is a bad food and Melanie cannot drink it. All foods are a source of germs and all must be scrubbed excessively. Initially, insulin was the enemy, but from mid-1994, any food that might have sugar is not tolerated in the house and has become the enemy. By October 1990 something, Stacy had dwindled down to 74 pounds, about 30 pounds under what she would weigh, although I do cook our evening meals and have attempted to keep the house stocked with food. Stacy made it her habit to return to the store virtually all the food I had purchased. She does this often when I have gone in the pantry in preparation for cooking a meal. I have found that there is literally nothing there. Although I had just gone shopping. So there was nothing there, although I had just gone shopping. Melanie has become the caretaker for her mother, believing that she is responsible for her mother. Stacy has only one other close friend in Washington, Linda Hagdale. She really, let me see, it's got only one good friend in Washington, Linda Hagdale. Oh, and the minute it says her name, it goes. She really leaves the, I would say it's going to say house.
I'm trying to find the place.
House and has gone to church, but once or twice in the last 8 months. once or so in the last 8 months. Melanie will not go to church without her mother. So none of us go. The effect is her mother's presence, and given her mother's demands, Melanie sacrifices her own childhood to caring for her mother. When she plays outside, Melanie checks back in frequently, but in order to check on her mother, not the other way around. Ultimately, Melanie, who enjoyed kindergarten, started to talk about how she did not want to go. Yet in the presence of myself and others, she really wants to be with the other children. See the declaration of Janet Willow, unparen. I struggled to maintain a normal life for Melanie. I work a normal work day as a human resource manager for Home Depot, which allows me somewhat flexible working hours. And I have been able to go home at lunch to take Melanie to the dentist or feed her lunch on occasion. For over a year, I have taken over all of the cooking as well as gradually the rest of the housekeeping. Most importantly, if Melanie is to have contact with other children or be involved in activities out of the house, I have provided it. We play ball together, go to the park, feed the ducks, go to the aquariums, etc. And I would like to involve Melanie in such activities as swimming in school, to which Stacy is opposed due to her fears of germs and foods, etc. In late March, Stacy threw herself, unable to care for Melanie with her mother, absconded with Melanie to California without my knowledge or agreement. I was powerless to stop this as I was returning from a business trip from Atlanta. When I left, here's the next page. The house, I had gone to church, but once or so is the last 8 months. Melanie will not go to church. Oh, that's the top of the page. So, let me see where it says. I don't know, it put the same page back in. When I left, Janet Wilson had been acting as nanny, but Stacy asked her, Mother Janice Cox, to come to Janet instead. I was told that Stacy's mother would leave for California the day I came home. Stacy and her mother left with Melanie for hours before we scheduled, 4 hours before my scheduled return. They had left, is what he's saying. 2, believe that Stacy may attempt to take Melanie again. 3, and unwilling to allow Melanie to be raised under the conditions which Stacy might provide. 8, Stacy's family are inappropriate caretakers for Melanie. Not only does Melanie not want to be there, but I fear the effect, the prolonged exposure to them on Melanie. When I finally brought Melanie and Stacy back from California, Melanie had begun displaying real odd behaviors. A pair of scissors and chopped off her hair in a straight line, which she was always covering with a baseball cap or hat. She insists she is a boy, and upon seeking new people will feel blank, blank, blank. Oh, she will tell them that she's AJ Alex. So, baby and I for 3 years. Oh, and she talks in a baby voice that's 3 years old. When she blank, the key talking to a different girl as if she were 3 years old. Something weird has happened to Melanie. Stacy has always admitted to me and others that her family was psychologically something.
It's so hard to
She has
say.
admitted that the father was diagnosed as a schizophrenic and the mother has an obsessed with loss of weight, physical appearance, and feminine bodies. Stacy now blames the origin of her problems on food, although it is something that originated because of the mother. I would leave for California the day I came home. Instead, Stacy and her mother left with, oh, it's the same thing again. Stacy's family are inappropriate caretakers for Melanie. Not only does Melanie not want to be there, but I fear the effect of prolonged exposure to them on Melanie. Then I finally brought Melanie and Stacy back from California. Melanie had begun displaying rather odd behavior. She took a pair of scissors and hacked off her hair in a straight line, which she now always covers with a baseball hat. She insists she is a boy, and upon meeting new people, she will insist to call her AJ, Alex, or Bobby. And I am 3 years old. She must say that she's 3 years old. When she does that, she begins talking in a different pitch. And if she were 3 years old, as if she was 3 years old, something weird has happened to Melanie. Stacy has always admitted to me and others that her family was a psychological hornet's nest. She has admitted that her father was diagnosed as a schizophrenic, and that her mother, Janice Cox, is obsessed with issues of weight, physical appearance, and feminine bodies. Stacy now blames the origin of her problems with food, although it is clear that they originated because of her refusal to administer her insulin program on any consistent basis. Her mother has always, and I gotta get back to that page, it skipped the page. Okay, whoops, it goes as, you don't believe how fast the page flips.
I'm trying to find the page. Sorry about that, but the video flips it in 10 seconds.
Stacy's behaviors have Janice's behaviors have contributed to Stacy's problems. I do not want Melanie to be exposed further to them. Stacy's current condition is her own choice, despite the constant urging of others. Medical and clergy, i.e., medical and clergy, that she participate in other courses of treatment. Stacy's condition is not just inevitable, but the result of her opinions and choices from which she cannot be swayed. In 1990, Stacy was diagnosed as type 1 diabetic insulin dependent. She must take insulin by shot since her pancreas secretes no insulin and her sugar levels are therefore very hard to manage. Stacy is required to inject insulin to monitor her blood sugar closely and to adhere to a regime of healthy and frequent eating, as well as exercising to reduce her need for insulin. Because she is prone to stress, as well as type 1 diabetes, the disease was difficult for her to manage. Stress increases the body's use of sugar. Rather than following medical advice, she did what was counterindicated. She began eating more, appreciating exercising less, and reducing her insulin intake. By the time we moved to Federal Way in November of 93, the problem with management were apparent, although I am not certain that Stacy did not just welcome the weight loss as slenderizing. For short 2 years, she managed this regime satisfactorily. For the first 2 years, she managed this regime satisfactorily, although with difficulty, since it involves constant monitoring of sugar levels, which vary with amount and type of food, stress, and exercise. However, in about October of 93, Stacy enrolled in a neuropathy correspondence course
Let's repeat again.
In about February 1994, she had refused to administer and take her insulin on a regular basis. In the middle of the last year, Stacy began fearing sugar, foods, and germs. Melanie's toys must be rubbed down with alcohol periodically, and especially if any other children use them. Although I loved swimming, I participated on my school swim teams and want Melanie to enjoy swimming. Stacy will not allow her to swim in pools. The germs are there. I tell her, our toilet must be alcohol regularly, rubbed down with cotton balls of alcohol, and Melanie cannot use public facilities. There are germs there. Stacy's problems are psychological as well as physical in the case that she has physical and something, but she denies both. She denies her psychological and her physical problems. Stacy has admitted to me, as well as others, that all various doctors who have dealt with her endocrine problems have told her she needs psychiatric help as well. In May of 94, Dr. Prinninger, located in Loma Linda, California. In June 1994, Dr. Stonesifer, internal medicine and endocrinologist, located in Federal Way, Washington. Dr. Gary B. Kaysen, Seattle, as well as Dr. Egret or Spratt, whose advice she disregarded in removing the IV without putting in a shunt. She has been prescribed antidepressants as several as several blank, but she will not use them nor will address the problem. Oh, so here it is. She has been prescribed antidepressants on several occasions, but she will not use them, nor will she address the problem. After she was hospitalized 3 times for about 2.5 weeks in December of '94, she had to take nutrients either intravenously or directly administered through a J tube. It must mean inserted into an intestine. Each method has risk, but intravenous feeding is more risky because of the risk of infection traveling through the tube to the heart. Before returning home in late June, Stacy refused to have the J tube implanted and had the intravenous. I'm not seeing what the next word is.
Yeah, they highlighted
in the middle of the last year. Became that's the same. So
they highlighted.
Each method has risks.
Yeah. They highlighted the words, so I'm having a hard time figuring it with the highlight over the words. It darkened it too much.
She will not take insulin to control the sugar diet. Oh, she had the intravenous removed against doctor's advice. She now will not take insulin to control the sugar problems, nor direct administration of nutrients to deal with the effects of not controlling the sugar. As I understand it, most food passes through her without being absorbed or utilized by her body. Her condition and her intestines. Her condition is and continues to be the result of her diet, her choices. Something in blank, something in San Bernardino with Stacy in and out of the hospital. Both, but finally I had to return home to my, I think, job.
Yes, job.
Leaving Melanie with her grandparents, saying, I believe this was just a temporary situation. I returned at Christmas for another week, just long enough to help Stacy to the hospital. Is the mother,
they put marker over the words
to help Stacy to the hospital in the other week. Stacy said her stomach felt like it was devouring itself. In addition to stomach pain, she was weak and fatigued. I went back home, leaving Melanie, but expecting her quick return home. Stacy suffered another and was admitted several times. She suffered another collapse and was admitted several times to Lisa Linda Hospital between January and early March, when she returned home with Melanie. In late December, early January, the doctors had found blank 2 hours on the floor screaming and kicking her feet. Other than the hysterical peaks, Stacy is either unable to save or is unable to move or is too irritable. Just before Thanksgiving, she lost blank in her sensations in her extremities. Both I and Janet urged her to go to the hospital. She refused, and we went to Hawaii. That was the only place that would make her happy or otherwise please her.
Can you imagine that? Is this Lori?
Stacy's collapses, losing footing in her feeling in her extremities is a sign of extreme sugar. I don't know what that next word is. Problems, I guess. Problems. But insulin me for, I don't know.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Although I attempted to get her to the hospital, she would not go. Instead, from November 93, we vacationed in Hawaii, going and returning through LA, since her parents live in San Bernardino. I virtually loaded her off the plane into the Los Linda Hospital. Stacy had been avoiding taking the insulin. She spent 2.5 weeks through admissions and releases over the next month and had to have Christmas in San Bernardino. I returned in San Bernardino with Stacy in and out of the hospital, but finally had to return home to my job, leaving Melanie with her grandparents, since I believe this was just a temporary situation. I returned at Christmas for another week, just long enough to help admit Stacy to the hospital in for another week. Stacy said her stomach felt like it was devouring itself. In addition to stomach pain, she was weak and fatigued. I went back home, leaving Melanie, but expecting her quick return home. Stacy suffered shoulder collapses and was admitted several times to Los Linda Hospital between January and early March when she returned home. In the late December or early January, the doctors had found that as a result of Stacy's high blood sugar, which was killing nerves, and her lack of eating, Stacy had essentially destroyed the ability of her gastrointestinal system to pass and absorb food through the stomach and intestinal system, i.e., she now had developed gastroparesis. Stacy was in and out of the hospital until her return to Seattle in the beginning of March. During this time, Melanie stayed with Stacy's parents and her sister. Oh no. Stacy has refused both medically accepted methods of providing her nutrients, to the detriment of her physical, mental, and emotional well-being, as well as the impact of that of Melanie. In December of 94, Stacy began receiving intravenous feedings via a tube suited into her shoulder. This is considered somewhat risky medically because of the danger of infection, which if it comes through the tube will go directly to the heart with the possibility of rapid death. Stacy did get a streptococcus infection, and at one point the tube was removed but then reinserted. At that time, she discussed with me the alternatives offered by her doctors, either the intravenous or a J tube, which allows nutrients to be directly placed into the lower intestine, avoiding problems with the arteries. Stacy refused to have the J tube, even though she told us that the doctors considered the intravenous feedings more risky due to the possibility of infections. I urged Stacy repeatedly to follow her doctor's advice, but she refused. From December through March, I spent about 8 4-day weekends in San Bernardino while Stacy remained there in and out of the hospital. In mid-March, she returned home with the intravenous feeding device. She began really obsessing about sugar, telling me she could see the crystals in the fluid bag from which the nutrient drained into her, and virtually wearing to keep it out of the house. I think it says wanting to, and virtually wanting to keep it out of the house. She continued articulating exaggerated fears relating to any contact of Melanie with foods and with other children. Melanie now exhibits signs of stress and emotional damage. Yeah, we can see that. Most of these behaviors occur in Melanie's presence, and they have affected her adversely. When she is in Stacy's presence, Melanie washes her hands about 25 to 30 times a day, about 4 times an hour. Melanie, though age 6, now will not sleep alone, but wants to sleep in bed with her parents. She loves milk and cereal, but her mother has decided that milk is bad for her and will not allow her to drink it unless something. I don't know what it says. Something. She is afraid of dentists, although she has virtually no experience with them. Stacy would not let her go swimming in a swimming pool that has germs. When Melanie went to kindergarten, Stacy told her that the school and the public bathrooms were dirty in the federal May elementary school, and that she should not use them at all. In a
Just pee on the floor.
sequence, Melanie became convinced that she should not go to school. She pled ill and was allowed not to go. Stacy will not allow her to play with toys handled by other children unless they are dipped in or cleaned off with alcohol. I have enrolled something in the first grade next year. So Melanie, I have enrolled Melanie in the first grade next year, and I want her to have that experience free from exaggerated fears about dirt and germs and other children. Stacy either cannot nor will not control her obsessions with these matters. Stacy is suicidal. Earlier in our marriage, Stacy threatened suicide and said she had taken a bottle of pills. That's what I think it says. I'm not sure. But before I called 911, she told me not to, and that she had said this just to get my attention. But my October 94, Stacy began talking again of suicide. Well, I did everything to tell her life was worth living.
Poor Melanie had to put up with that.
Nonetheless, she continued to ruminate on the idea. In May, she became sore. And then something.
Can't read it.
Insistent on suicide as a remedy to her problems.
What a mother, huh, guys? And then we wonder why Melanie is, I'm almost feeling sorry for her.
Comment.
Her mother was always suicidal, wouldn't let her play with children, wouldn't let her play with toys.
Melanie didn't have a chance to be a child
Not
without
eat
trauma.
food.
Dr. Spratt then treating her offered incidents worried me. Stacy had asked the nurse how much insulin she would have to take to go into an insulin coma and die. Stacy soon became quite open with me. On about May 21, 1995, judging from my long-distance telephone bill, she called me on the telephone and she said words to the effect of, "Steve, I've done everything that I can. I've talked to Barry and Janice, her parents, and and we agree it's my time to go. She then solicited my input on it. On May 22nd, she called and said words to the effect of, I have no hope, I have no faith. If I have to get another A-line, I'll tell them I just can't do it. I can't hang on anymore. If I don't make it, you'll know what happened. I've given it my best shot. On May 25th, she called and said, I feel like taking a whole bottle of insulin, but with my luck, I wouldn't die. On May 31st, she phoned to say words to the effect of, I really want to die. I would like to be her, Melanie's mommy, but I can't do it when I feel like this. I'd rather just let go and die. Because Stacy was in the hospital and I was in Seattle, I could do little except talk to doctors without bringing her back to Seattle, which is what I did at the end of June. However, it was and is my feeling that Stacy had decided she will die. She was advised to replace the IV feeding device, the A-line, with a shunt or a J-tube, which is less susceptible to infection, by putting nutrients into the intestines rather than the bloodstream. Instead, she instructed her doctors against medical advice. At this juncture, my only course is to protect Melanie from inappropriate involvement with her mother's choice of action or inaction relating to her diseases. I have sought help from friends in the church, and I have straighted endlessly. I have something endlessly with Stacy. Renunciated or something like that. I could not make her do what the doctors recommended, in which she decided, again, stay on her insulin regime, stay on her nutrient regime. The only thing I could do to insulate Melanie from inappropriate involvement in these matters, I believe Melanie needs contact with her brother, but that the contact can only be in the presence of a responsible supervisor. And I want Melanie to be free to be a child and to be, not her brother, her mother. I believe Melanie needs contact with her mother, but that the contact can only be in the presence of a responsible supervisor. And I want Melanie to be free to be a child and to be taken care of rather than the caretaker of her mother. In June, I demanded that Stacy and Melanie return home, and they did, but Stacy became more demanding and more obsessed. While I made one weekend trip to LA, I could not fly there each weekend. In the meantime, during the week before we left San Bernardino, Stacy had the intravenous tube removed. She told me the IV or nothing. And she had decided against IV. That's the strangest thing. Melanie's behaviors become more extreme. Stacy now was alone in the house with Melanie all day, and she would not allow me to hire a nanny. Melanie, who has been raised as a Christian, began using words like shit and other obscenities, as well as wanting to dress only like a boy. Stacy decided she would homeschool Melanie for first grade, which would result in Melanie's complete isolation, since either children are the source of germs. Since other children are the source of germs, it was not allowed. And it skipped a page, sorry.
Can you imagine a judge reading this?
Something he wanted
This is a document.
condition and limited so that Melanie is protected, and she's not. Stacy has enjoyed the luxury of being her own choices, or of having her own choices. Under the circumstances, those choices are very limited. She can seek intensive out or inpatient treatment. She can remain here and continue her existence, relying on friends, and she can possibly go back to her parents. I cannot help or take Stacy not to talk about these matters. Oh, I cannot stop probably Stacy. I cannot something Stacy not to talk about these matters with Melanie, and even blank were to agree. I have no doubt that she might enlist her blank to convey her wishes. Melanie must be protected from this. Sign this date, the 4th day of August, 1995, in Seattle, Washington. And then it has his signature.
Wow, guys.
And I know that was very disjointed, but it was very hard to read. First, yeah. So I'm going to end stream.
So, guys, what do you think of that? What do you think of Melanie's life with her mother? Her mother was always suicidal. She wasn't eating. If her husband bought food, you can hear it, she would take it back to the store. He would fill the food pantry, and he'd come home from work to cook dinner, and all the food would be gone. She would take it out. There's no question she had anorexia nervosa. And only because I know it runs somewhat in my family. I have some relatives that have it, cousins and whatnot, and a niece. It is a mental illness. People think anorexia nervosa is an eating problem. No, it's a mental illness, and one of the symptoms is not eating. So it's totally different. Most people think it's eating, and then it causes, because you don't eat, it causes problems. No, it's a mental illness that causes you not to eat. So she was down to 70 pounds at one point, Melanie's mother, and she was parentified. Melanie was taking care of her mother. That's why the husband, Steve, wanted her out of that house. He wanted to have her separate from Stacy because Stacy was always suicidal. And then when they went to the grandparents, they were crazy. Barry and Janice's house, they were crazy. So he couldn't rely on them to watch Melanie while the mother was sick. Yeah, you're right. The Cox women used the court system to play dirty custody battles. Right, Betsy B. Yeah, but they're ill. They're very ill. They need to truly help Melanie. Melanie with an I, is that who you mean? Shannon Burgess Whittle? Yeah, who needs to help Melanie? The family? No, her family isn't going to help her. It's going to be the outside world. Yeah, she sounds like she could have schizophrenia too. Poppy's in Normandy, I thought the same thing. They all seem like they have it. Well, with Lori's delusions, see, I'm going to say this, and I'm saying this in all sincerity. I do not like Melani Pawlowski, but after reading this court papers, I somewhat have an affinity for her. Not to say that I would side with her, because I can't, because she wasn't loyal to those kids. Once someone isn't loyal to children, I can't stand by them. She's still not loyal to those children. But I can see that she got arrested, developmentally arrested at a certain age. Like her psychological development must have got turned off because she was parenting her mother that was suicidal all the time, and the mother that wouldn't let them have food in the cupboard. I think Melanie has false teeth, and that's why she talks more like pressing her teeth together. And it makes sense because they said that because she was never given calcium or allowed to drink milk or anything like that, that her teeth formed without the right calcium intake. So they said they had to pull 2 of them at 6 years old. Yeah, the family's very ill, huh? The psychosis is like slapping you right in the face. When I ever read this, I'm like, yeah, she wears those false eyelashes too. But hey, because the poor thing, she has false teeth. There's no question that. What is she, 31, 32? When Lori came knocking on Melanie's door to get her into the cult by showing her fake love and attention, and Melanie was like a babe. Yep. Exactly. Why would you, if you're trying to fight for custody of your own 4 children, why would you move to Rexburg, Idaho from Arizona? She wasn't trying to get custody. You wouldn't move that far. So far, it's documentation of Melanie's childhood and her mom's medical, oh yes, and her grandparents and her aunt. I mean, it's really, and she wanted to die. She was resisting any medical treatment. I mean, I know that was long-winded. I feel so sorry for you guys having to listen to that. But as you could tell, Steve kept repeating the same things. I think he was traumatized because he saw that Melanie was slipping away from him. She was falling under their spell, so to speak. And he was scared. So he was repeating himself in that court order. That was an official court affidavit from him. Yeah, they don't. Schizophrenics can be extremely medication refractory, meaning it doesn't work, poppies in Normandy, or it works only for a short period of time, and then you need to try a different medicine. Oh, yeah. So far, it's documentation of Melanie's childhood. Yeah, the psychological. She's an adult with her own children. So hard. Childhood is no excuse. However, you can see the cycle and effects child abuse has on people. Yes, Betty Spaghetti. I love that. I love that name, Betty Spaghetti. Yeah, exactly. And we all think that we had it hard, but when you see something like this, with you know what really makes me? Melanie was always close to death because her mother was always threatening suicide. Can you imagine what that does to a child's brain? I know, huh, Lakota Sky? Reading. Hey, Graham. Hey, everyone. By Rebel Rose. Hi. Hey, my computer just went off. It came back on. You're welcome. Yeah. So does anyone have any feelings for Melanie? Hi, wake up. I feel for the Bisbee Melanie is carrying. Oh, the baby, yes. Ian is going to pay a dear price if he does take that baby and divorce her. Sad but true. She won't get help. Yeah, she won't get help. Did you hear where Melanie's mom had a bag of insulin that was IV, and she thought that there was sugar in the bag of insulin, so she made her husband take it out of the house. It was supposed to be in her arm or wherever, in her shoulder. But no, she saw crystals in the bag of insulin, and she thought it was sugar, so she made Steve take it out of the house. That's how crazy she was. Yes. I Poor guy, huh? Same here, Shannon Burgess Whittle. Same, I thought my family went through a lot. But when you read this, there's never been killings in my family. There might be crazies, but not killings, and no violence. Like the last couple of generations, there's no physical violence at all. And I think that changes that. These people, I call shooting a gun at someone physical violence, you know? Oh yes, Rebel Rose. I think both Melanies, but yeah, I wonder if Brandon knew any of this before having. Oh, I know, huh? Poor Brandon. Poor Brandon. I can't believe what he's had to go through with her. Yes, I doubt he did. But yeah, Melanie, what came out of this for me is Melanie did not have a chance at all. Not one iota. You know, it seems kind of rude reading her father's court documentations asking the court to, give him all rights to Melanie and to keep her distant. And did you hear that? He wanted supervised visits and for the grandmother. He didn't want the Janice around Melanie. And what is the thing with the wanting the boy's cap on? He always she wanted the boy's cap. She knew what the plan was all along. Yes, Rebel Rose, they better go to prison. Yeah, they can't get out. They can't get out of they can't get out of prison because they'll do it again. If Chad was to get out, I was thinking of this today. If he was to get out of prison, he'd do it again. Lori would do it again. In fact, I think they'd even do it faster. Like they had like a month and a half in between each murder. I think they would, I think they could do it much quicker than that. The most are given no fame to family. Shame is the Kobe. People have compassion. Yeah, poor Kobe. What can you do? Yeah, Kobe's got he. Who does he have for relatives? He doesn't have his mother. Well, he does have that William LaGoya. That's his real biological father. I'm not sure if he's taken up with him, and he's supposed to live in Texas. His real biological dad. Yeah, unless line pockets. Golden Kobe is using this to line. What does that mean? D led by 2. Golden Kobe is using this to line pockets. What was wrong with Brandon that he didn't know to look out for mental issues his wife might be harboring during? Because sometimes they don't show it until you live with them and the stresses. A lot of mental illnesses only get exacerbated when there's stress. So if they're courting and stuff and they're in the honeymoon period, lovey-dovey, that's not very stressful. But mental illness comes out when there's stress. Keeping this in public attention helps to bring justice to the children. The Mormons help their own. He is using this for money, laughing at all of you along the way. How is Kobe getting money? Oh, Kobe's going to pay for the kids' funerals? How is Kobe? I don't know about this. Can you tell me how Kobe's getting money? It's on one of those .com things. D Love by Two. GoFundMe is now over 10,000 to Kobe himself. Yeah. Their murders, the state will pay for it. The state will pay for all expenses. They have that victims fund. So no, he doesn't have to pay for their funerals. Whenever it's a serious crime like this, the state pays for it out of the victims fund. Right. You're right, Dee. He doesn't have to pay anything. Yeah, and she would pay. Oh, certainly, especially JJ, right? Kay would pay, and she has the cash. Oh, I have a feeling he's getting a lot of help considering what has happened. The LDS helped my family when my son had cancer because of the good ones were not members. Oh, nice. Yeah, he really, yeah. I don't begrudge him at all for getting money. I mean, no. I mean, I don't even know how he gets up and goes to work if he does. I mean, this is enough to push anyone to their threshold. Oh. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I love asking that. I know I'm a pain in the neck. How bad do you think Melanie's life was? 1 being very good and 10 being very bad. Guys, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10's bad and 1's good. How bad do you think her child life was growing up with her mother? It looks like her father did everything right, that he wanted safety. Oh, you guys see that? I'll pull this up a little. Are you guys there? I don't see anything in the chat. Oh, there it is. Oh, 10. Very, very. Oh, yeah. Okay. I see it now. I didn't see anything, and then it all popped up all at once. Yeah, me too. I think it's really one. Yeah. Now I understand why she looks so dead. Her eyes look so dead. Her mother abused her. Yeah, he does. 1 million isn't a lot. I'm sure Kay and Larry have used most of it, supporting themselves and JJ's actual father, who are probably mentally drained and unable to work, private investigators, and lots of travel. Yeah, and I know that she probably gave some to the boys. Charles's first 2 sons from the normal marriage that he should have never left and went to Lori. I mean, he didn't leave that marriage to go to Lori, but to the woman that cried when Charles died because it was her ex-husband, the boy's mother. No, but Shannon, the grandparent, the victims advocate office pays for all of that. They don't pay for their hotel. They don't pay for their flying. There's actually a victims assistance fund in every state under the Attorney General's office, and the Attorney General is the one that writes the checks. So what they do is they pay for their own airfare and their own hotels, but they send in their receipts to the AG's office, and they manifest a check to them. So they get paid back. None of that stuff. When you're a victim of violent crime, you don't pay for a thing. and like let's say Colby needs psychological help, they'll pay for Colby to go get psychological help. They'll pay for all his therapy. That's just an example. The Victims Assistance Fund is just for that, because you're a victim of a very serious crime. By gonna go spend time with my baby Chihuahua. He has more brains in his head than these women here. Oh, Dee. Okay, Dee. That is such good information. I feel so horrible. Thank you for that information. It's really sad, the whole thing. Bye, Dee. I'm going to be hitting the road too. Sorry about how long that was, but I thought it was interesting that you get some type of a flavor of what kind of life Melanie lived. And it softened me with her too, even though I thought she, by announcing that Tylee acted tyrannical and stuff, she had no right saying that. All teenagers can have a problem with their dispositions. Yes, he does. Yeah. Victim witness program. Yeah. So he could get therapy. I'm trying to think what else. Let's say he's having major anxiety. He can go to a medical doctor and get prescribed anxiety pills or whatever. I'm just throwing out anything. Obviously, when he comes to the trials, he'll get an advocate that's their personal advocate, so that they sit with them in court. They go to court with them, and the advocate will explain to them, the decorum, what's going on, and that kind of stuff. So they don't have to search in the halls looking to ask information. They have assigned victim advocate that goes from the day one to the end, until they boot them right back into the prison. So guys, I think I'm going to end. It's been nice. I'm glad you're all here. And I have a different appreciation of what Melani Pawlowski went through, but she needs to grow up and be responsible and needs to take action and stop blaming people. That's her problem. She's in a cycle of blaming everybody else instead of taking real action for her circumstances. Chad might have had Melanie on his victim. Yeah. What do you think? How long do you think Chad's hearing will be? July 1? I think it'll be at least those 2 days. I think they got July 1st and 2nd assigned for him. Bye, Lakota. I'm so glad you came. So glad you had to sit through that. And they had put marker through it. So I had to read through the marker. Oh, thanks, Laura Diaz-Arton. Thank you very much. All the interviews with law enforcement and media alone is enough to make keeping a job hard. Then add the fact most of his family was murdered. I can't be mad if Colby needs some help. Of course not. Okay, Lori was the most gullible, so Chad took the chance together. Yeah, strange, huh? Strangest woman in the world. I've met a lot of strange people, but I'm gonna tell you, she takes the cake. That Lori, I can't even joke about that. You can't joke that because she was a murderer, and we all know it. Yeah, thank you, everybody. I'm gonna go sleep as well. And I'll keep you posted. I'm going to do a couple more. I got a couple ideas up my sleeve. This just came up because someone referred me to this document. So I figured, it will shed the complexion on Melanie. And then, like I said, when I read it, I said, oh no, I'm kind of feeling for her now. I don't want to feel for her. Yeah, hit the like button and show Graham some love. Yeah. Well, take care, guys. You guys have a great night. And if you haven't seen my granddaughter, she made up that little song and she sang it on the video earlier this afternoon. If no one's seen it, check her out. She's got like a 40-second video. If you didn't see that. Yeah, I'm from the Boston area, Poppy. I'm from the metropolitan Boston area. Yes. Yep. Oh, that's nice, Shannon, of you to donate. Yes, all have a blessed night. Keep faith over fear. And watch out for the ugly. Oh, thank you, Laura Diaz. Take care, everybody. I'm going to close. Good night. Thanks for being here. It is nighttime and the bugs are coming out.